I gave up everything for my son, my savings, my health, even the dream of a retirement with peace, but nothing stings more than realizing he never saw any of it. Not the long nights, not the quiet sacrifices, not even me. Just wait. This isn't just a revenge story. It's a wake-up call for every mother who thought love would be enough. Gregory was all I had. I raised him alone after his father died in a boating accident. I was 37, 2 months pregnant, and terrified out of my mind. But I did what mothers do. I made it work. I worked double shifts at the craft store, stitched together people's curtains and cushion covers on the side, and kept the lights on even when I couldn't afford to heat the house. I never remarried, not because I didn't have the chance, but because Gregory was everything. He was my why. And when he got into a community college, I sold my wedding ring to pay for books. He didn't know that. He still doesn't. Years passed. Gregory became sharp, confident, ambitious. He started flipping houses, working with some startup guy from Miami, called it Jacob's Property Innovations. I didn't understand a lick of what he was doing, but I supported it with all I had. When he told me he wanted to buy his first real home in Tampa, I didn't hesitate. I sold the RV. The one Harold and I traveled in every summer, the one he restored with his bare hands. I cashed out my last IRA account, $81,000. Every cent I had for emergencies. I thought, if I help him now, he'll remember this forever. A foolish, hopeful thought. Gregory promised the house would be ours, that he'd add me to the title once the paperwork settled. I didn't push. I trusted. 2 weeks later, he invited me to a party. A big one, he said. Everyone who helped me build this life should be there, he texted. I read that message at least a dozen times, smiled like a teenager. I baked my famous bourbon brisket, spent hours pressing my one good blouse. The party was at some rented villa near the beach in Florida Keys. Fancy, loud, expensive. People in silk shirts and manicured shoes. I showed up holding a foil tray and hope. And in that moment, standing there in front of a house I helped buy but didn't own, I didn't know I was walking into a humiliation I'd remember for the rest of my life. The music was already thumping when I walked up the stone path, casserole in hand, trying not to feel out of place. The house was stunning. A modern rental with glass walls, palm trees swaying, and strangers laughing like they'd known each other forever. Gregory greeted me at the door with a side hug and a rushed, "Thanks, Mom," like I was delivering a package, not walking into my own son's celebration. I smiled anyway. I always do. "I brought the brisket," I said. He barely looked down at the tray. Cool, just, set it in the kitchen. "Oh, one more thing. Can you help me real quick?" I nodded, because I always do. Gregory grabbed a silver drink tray off a table, shoved it into my hands, then turned to the crowd gathered on the patio. "Everyone," he shouted over the music, grinning. "Meet our waitress for the night, my mom, Darlene. Please tip her well." They laughed, loud, the kind of laugh that eats you alive if you stand too long in it. Someone actually clapped. I held that tray like it was bolted to my palms, the plastic cups wobbling, my heart thrumming against my ribs like it wanted out. I didn't say a word. I just smiled, frozen, numb, and walked inside. You ever had a moment like that? A moment where your body's still moving, but your soul just stops. If you have, you'll understand why I went straight to the guest bathroom, locked the door, and just sat there. Not crying, just unraveling. Then I heard it. Voices through the vent, clear as day. "She really brought food?" It was Gregory's girlfriend, that snide little voice laced with contempt. "She'll do anything," Gregory said. "Didn't even flinch when I filed the guardianship. She still thinks the house is hers." "Guardianship?" "She doesn't know yet," he added. "I've got it all lined up. Once that's done, I control everything. Bank, property, the works." "She's lucky you even invited her," the girl snapped. And right then, I didn't feel like a mother anymore. I felt like a nuisance, a pawn. Something used, then pushed aside. When I stood up from that toilet lid, I looked in the mirror, wiped my face, and whispered one thing to myself. "You are not invisible." And if any of you watching this have ever been made to feel small, by your own children no less, Drop a comment. Tell me. Because I promise you, I'm listening. I didn't sleep that night. Not a single minute. I sat in my recliner, the one with the tear in the armrest Gregory used to crawl into when he had bad dreams, and I stared at the ceiling until morning. My body was still, but my mind, it was racing. Guardianship. That word looped in my head like a bad song. I knew what it meant. I wasn't stupid. I'd seen the stories. Adult children declaring their parents unfit, taking control of their lives, locking them away quietly while cashing out everything they built. And suddenly, nothing felt safe. At 8:03 a.m., I opened the metal lockbox I hadn't touched in years. Inside, my birth certificate, Gregory's, Harold's death record, a folder marked Dad's House, Titusville. The deed should have been there, but it wasn't. I tore the place apart. Drawers, folders, even old Christmas card boxes. Nothing. My hands shook as I called the county clerk's office. "Hi, yes, I'm trying to check on a property title. It should still be in my name." The man on the line was polite, efficient, too efficient. "It shows transfer of ownership to an entity called Bright Elm Holdings, LLC, ma'am. Finalized 3 weeks ago." I blinked. "Who signed it?" He replied without hesitation. "Darlene Jacobs, notarized. Filed under health-related asset protection." I nearly dropped the phone. That was the folder Gregory brought over 2 weeks after my surgery. I'd just gotten home from the hospital, still loopy from meds. He said, "It's just some insurance stuff, Mom. Sign here, here, and here." I remember holding the pen like it weighed 10 pounds. I didn't ask questions. I trusted him. He didn't just humiliate me. He didn't just take the house. He took my name and rewrote it into a legal lie. And no one knew. Not my neighbors, not my church friends, not even me, until it was too late. I sat on the kitchen floor for a long time, the linoleum cold against my legs, staring at the cabinet under the sink. That's where I used to hide birthday presents when Gregory was little. Back when he used to run down the hallway in Superman pajamas yelling, "Mom, where's my cake?" And now he'd stolen everything I ever worked for, while calling it care. That's the worst part of betrayal. It doesn't come from enemies. It comes from the face you loved most. And I wasn't even angry. Not yet. I was just gone. But something else was waking up. And it wasn't soft. The next morning, I got up at 5:12 a.m., not because I slept, Lord knows I didn't, but because something shifted. I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't confused. I was still. And stillness, I've learned, is where the real storm starts. I made coffee, not to drink it, but to think straight. I pulled out my old yellow legal pad and wrote 2 words across the top. He knew. That was the start. I began listing every detail I could remember. The forms he brought, the timing after surgery, the missing deed, the guardianship word whispered like a joke behind a bathroom vent. And I wrote it all down, not for emotion, but for evidence. By noon, I had already scheduled an appointment with an elder law attorney 2 towns over. Her name was Judith. She wore navy blue and didn't blink when I said, "I think my son is trying to erase me." Judith leaned forward and said something I'll never forget. "You're not the first mother to walk through my door, but you might be one of the few who's willing to fight back." She explained the forms I likely signed post-surgery, how they could be challenged if proven I wasn't lucid. She pulled up public records. The LLC Gregory used to funnel my house through? He formed it 2 months ago, registered through an online service. No physical office, no website. Guess whose name showed up as a managing partner? His girlfriend. So while I was recovering, Gregory and his sweet little fiancée were planning how to legally disappear me. I left Judith's office with a folder full of strategy, and something I hadn't felt in weeks, clarity. That night I called Gregory. "Let's have dinner soon," I said. My voice didn't shake. He sounded relieved, like the danger had passed, but I wasn't offering dinner. I was setting the table. I didn't want revenge. I wanted truth. Exposed, cold, unmistakable. And for the first time in a long time, I looked in the mirror and didn't see a victim. I saw a woman whose silence was done serving others. They took my name off the deed. They filed to take my life under their control. But what they never counted on was that I'd start controlling the story. The thing about a quiet plan is no one sees it coming. While Gregory thought I was back to baking and forgetting, I was building a case behind every smile. I answered his texts with little hearts, played the sweet mother on cue. Meanwhile, I was scanning every document, recording every call, and building a folder that could hold up in court and collapse him in front of anyone who ever believed he was a good son. I even had the lawyer run a full audit on the LLC. Guess what? It was used for exactly one thing: laundering my house into his name while keeping his own name off the title to avoid legal blowback. Clever. Cold. But not clever enough. I started calling it the folder. Inside, screenshots of the guardianship application he filed behind my back, voice memos from the bathroom vent, a notarization log showing I was still sedated when I allegedly signed, a signed letter from my doctor confirming I was not medically competent at the time. Every night I'd sit at my kitchen table, highlighter in hand, flipping through the stack like I was rehearsing for trial. Because I was. I even bought 3 tiny cameras, GoPro knockoffs, cheap but sharp. One went inside a light fixture, one behind a fake plant, one in the hallway facing the dining table. I tested angles for hours, practiced lines in the mirror, then I picked a date. Sunday, dinner, just family, I texted Gregory. He responded with, "Can't wait," and I stared at that heart like it was a wound that no longer bled. He didn't know the table he was walking into was set with more than food. It was set with facts. Boundaries, a quiet fire he wouldn't recover from. I didn't tell anyone, except Tasha, my oldest friend, the one who's seen me cry into laundry and pray through unpaid bills. She helped me check the tech, label the folders, and most importantly, stay calm. "You really gonna do this?" she asked the night before. I nodded, steady. "I'm not doing it to destroy him, Tasha. I'm doing it so I never have to explain myself again." Because when a mother has to prove she exists, something inside her changes, and that change, it never goes back. The table was set like any other Sunday. Roast chicken, scalloped potatoes, green beans, but under each plate was something far less comforting, a sealed envelope. Gregory walked in wearing that fake button-up he only puts on when he wants to look like he's doing the right thing. His girlfriend followed, all polished confidence. They laughed, complimented the food, poured wine like this was just another family meal. But I didn't sit. I stood at the head of the table and said, "Before we eat, I have something small for each of you." They opened the envelopes, one by one. Inside, every document, every proof, the fake signatures, the guardianship filing, the LLC registration, the audio transcripts, all printed, tabbed, highlighted. Gregory's face dropped. His girlfriend froze. Not one of them said a word. Then I pulled out a flash drive, set it in the center of the table. "This has footage from tonight, 3 camera angles. Everything's been recorded." Gregory tried to speak. I held up my hand. "No, don't insult me with excuses. You filed to take control of my life while I was recovering from surgery. You stole the house your grandfather built with his hands, and you used my love to make it look like I gave it freely." He looked small. Not sorry, just caught. I walked to my seat and pulled out one last envelope, a letter from my attorney. Inside was the revocation of all inheritance rights, a cease and desist, and a statement of intent to file charges if he made another move on my estate. "You're no longer my beneficiary. You will not represent me, speak for me, or inherit a single cent. I am not your waitress. I am not your wallet. And after tonight, I am not your mother." Silence. No yelling. No slamming doors, just the sound of everything breaking, quietly. They left without dessert. I didn't follow. That night, I posted the video anonymously. No commentary, no anger, just truth. It spread fast. By morning, strangers were messaging me, some crying, some saying, "I thought I was the only one." And maybe that's why I told this story. Maybe that's why I'm telling it now. If you're watching this and you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if your sacrifices have been twisted into shame, drop a comment below. I'll read it. I'll believe you, because you're not alone, and more importantly, you're not done.